Howdy, howdy everyone, Chris here and welcome back to Garage Noise. And if you're new to the channel, this channel is dedicated to teaching you how to do paint and body repairs so you can do your own repairs at home. Now this Kia fender has been damaged. The edge of the fender has been bent in and it's got a good sized dent in the center. We're going to straighten that up today. I'm going to show you exactly how we do it. Before we go ahead and straighten the edge of this fender, we're going to try and pull this dent out as much as possible with cold glue. Now this is the Glexo cold glue system. It comes with some tabs and some cold glue, and this is glue that can be reused over and over again. And basically what I'm doing is put a little ball of glue on this metal tab, and we're going to press it into the dent and then see how much of this we can slide out with just this cold glue. I wasn't expecting this cold glue to pull this dent out fully. What I wanted to do is just relieve some of the pressure on that dent so I can tap down this crown that's around it. This is a really large crown, and I'm using my spoon with some Gorilla Tape on the back, and then I'm going to hammer that down. And what that does is going to spread out the blow of the hammer and help to flatten out that crown. Now that the dent is starting to come together, let's go ahead and address the edge of this fender and get that straightened out. Now, if you have this problem at home where the edge of your fender is bent in and your door's hitting, or you can't even open your door and that fender is bent in, I'm going to show you how to straighten it. Now, I'm taking my spoon here and you can see how this fender's bent in and it's catching that door. We've got a little bit of a dent there in the wheel opening too that we're going to repair. But what I'm going to do is take my spoon and I'm going to put it in that gap and then pry that fender out to where it's level. Now, there is a little bit of dent in the door already, so we're not going to worry about that because we're going to be repairing that. So even if we do dent it just a little bit, it's not going to really make a difference. So I just wedged the spoon in there and then I carefully put pressure on it to bend that fender back into shape. Once I start getting some movement out of that fender, I'll start working my way up that fender gap and make it all nice and even. Now you can do this at home and you don't necessarily need a spoon. You could use any rigid tool that will slide in there and bend it. Now just be patient and careful and try not to damage your door, but you can fix your gaps at home so you can at least open your door and move on down the road. Now the door opens and closes, it doesn't catch the fender, and this is something you can easily do at home. The fender gap looks good. We have a little high area at the top, but we can adjust that fender and get that out of there. So now let's focus on this dent and get this dent ready for body filler. Now I'm going to give the glue one more shot with some hot glue, some glue tabs, and a lifting tool, and we're going to try and pull this dent out. I'm not expecting a whole lot here because there's such a good crease in that metal. It stretched it quite a bit. I'm probably going to have to push this out from the backside. But I put a little glue tab here on this shallow dent. Then I placed another one right below this crease to try and pull that out a little bit. But I believe I'm going to have to push this dent out from the inside. And what I'll do is go in through the door inside the fender and push that out. I really didn't get the results I was looking for with this glue pulling kit. This kit is off of Amazon. It's an inexpensive kit. You can get them pretty cheap, and if it's something you're interested, you can check it out. I've got links in the description. But I won't expect amazing results with this kit. Unless you get a really high strength glue and some quality tabs, you're not going to get really good results with it. It's good for certain dents, but some dents it's just not going to pull out. So what I decided to do to get the remaining low areas in this dent out, we want to get as much of this dent out as we can before we start to fill it. I took a PDR rod and I went in behind the door and behind the fender and pushed out that dent in those low areas and then tapped down the high areas. Now Darius is going to strip down this vehicle. We're going to remove the tire, the wheel opening molding, and the inner splash shield. We want to have access to that dent from behind the fender because we're going to use a hammer and dolly to straighten this out. This is a toe dolly. It's got a flat side and then it's got a side with a little bit of a radius on it. We're going to put that radius side right up against the fender, up against that crown, and then tap down that crown and flatten it out. Now I'm going to take a small block with some 80 grit on it. We're just going to block sand it to see where our high and low areas are, kind of show you what we have left. After sanding it, we can see where our high and low areas are, so we're going to use a dolly and a pick hammer and tap down those high areas. Now we have this dent all straightened out. It's very shallow, so we're going to use a thin coat of glazing putty to fill it. We've sanded this with 80 grit sandpaper, so it is ready for filler. Yes, you can put filler or glazing putty over properly sanded paint. Follow your TDS and your recommendations on the products you're using. The product we're using today is made by USC. It's called Icing. It's a glazing putty. It's made for small, shallow dents. You don't want to use it on any large dents. Use traditional body filler for that. And the way you want to mix it up is it's about 2% hardener, and then you fold it in so you don't create any air pockets. And then you press it into the dent. I'll use medium pressure to press in this filler into that low area. Then I'll use a guide coat to spread over this repair area, and then we'll block it with some 180 grit sandpaper on a small block. Glaze can usually be blocked with 180 grit sandpaper pretty easy, and this sands pretty well. So we'll get this all blocked out and straight, and then we'll evaluate it and see where we're at. So you want to use a block that's at least the size of the repair area. This block's actually a little bit larger than the repair area. But there's extra filler on there. So you want to block it in an X pattern. That's going to give you the best opportunity to get this panel straight. Now I've got it blocked out and flat, and I notice there's a couple little high areas, so we're going to tap those down with our spoon and our hammer. We don't want to create any dents. We just want to level those out just a little bit. I am going to put another coat of filler on this, another thin coat over a larger area, because there's a little bit of a wave that I want to take out. After about 10 minutes, this filler will be cured, so we'll go ahead and block it out once again with some 180 grit sandpaper. I did notice a little dent here we're going to address and straighten that out. So I got my PDR tool behind there, popped out the dent a little bit, and then we prepped it out with some 180 grit sandpaper, cleaned it, and get it ready for some icing. I'll use some tape to keep that filler confined to the repair area, and then we'll just lay a thin coat of filler over this damage. And we're also going to do the front part of that door as well, because it's got a little bit of a bend in it. We're going to straighten out. Then I'm going to use my orbital sander with some 180 grit sandpaper, and I'm just doing this for speed to shape it. I'm not going to try and straighten it with the DA. We're going to shape it with the DA, and then we'll start blocking over it with some 180 grit sandpaper. You'll see me apply some tape on that body line around that wheel opening. What I'm doing is I'm putting it on the body line and I'm blocking down to it, and then I'll put it on the opposite side and block up to that tape and create that body line. Keep that body line as close to factory as we possibly can. So once I have all this bodywork shaped, we want to step it down to 320 grit sandpaper, and that's what I'm using here. I'm removing those 180 grit scratches with 320 grit sandpaper. That can be easily primed over. I hope you're enjoying this video and finding it helpful. If you have any questions or just want to say howdy, leave them in the comments below. All that helps this channel grow. If you need products or tools for your project, I have an Amazon storefront link down in the description. All those tools and products I use are organized and categorized so they're easy to find. Let's bump up the beats, finish the blocking, and then I'll talk about what we're going to do for primer. This is the primer we're using today. It's the Roberlo ME1. This is a 2K urethane primer. This is a DTM primer, direct to metal primer. Mixes up 4 to 1. That's 4 parts primer, 1 part activator. we're going to put 2 medium coats on this, and that'll be enough material to block this out and get it straight. So we'll put the first coat on, and then we'll allow it to flash off about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll apply a second coat, and we'll be ready to go. So maybe you want to repair your daily driver, or maybe you have a restoration project you're working on in your garage. Let me know about it down in the comments below. In the next episode, we're going to finish up this repair, but you don't have to wait. If you want to learn how to paint, check out one of these videos now. I appreciate each and every one of you watching, and we'll see you next time on Garage Noise.